Chapter 1 of Gold. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Richard Kilmer, Rio Medina, Texas. Gold by Stuart Edward White. Part 1, Panama. Chapter 1, Oh, Susanna. Somewhere in this book I must write a paragraph exclusively about myself. The fact that in the outcome of all these stirring events I have ended as a mere bookkeeper is perhaps a good reason why one paragraph will be enough. In my youth I had dreams aplenty, but the event and the peculiar twist of my own temperament prevented their fulfillment. Perhaps in a more squeamish age, and yet that is not fair, either, to the men whose destinies I am trying to record. Suffice it, then, that of these men I have been the friend and companion. Of these occasions I have been a part, and that the very lacks and reservations of my own character that have kept me to the subordinate position and a little garden have probably made me the better spectator, which is a longer paragraph about myself than I had proposed writing. Therefore I will pass over briefly the various reasons, romantic and practical, why I decided to join the gold rush to California in the year 1849. It was in the air, and I was then of a romantic and adventurous disposition. The first news of the gold discovery filtered to us in a roundabout way through vessels to the Sandwich Islands, and then appeared again in the columns of some Baltimore papers. Everybody laughed at the rumor, but everybody remembered it. The land was infinitely remote, and then, as now, romance increases as the square of the distance. There might well be gold there, but more authentic were the reports of fleas, rawhides, and a dried-up coast. Minstrel shows made a good deal of fun of it all. I remember, then, when we were of a broad grin, came the publication of a letter written by Governor Mason to the War Department. That was a sober official document, and had to be believed, but it read like a fairy tale. I have no hesitation in saying, wrote the governor, that there is more gold in the country drained by the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers than would pay the cost of the late war with Mexico 100 times over. And then he went on to report in detail big nuggets and big washings, mentioning men, places, dates, in a circumstantial manner that carried conviction. Our broad grins faded. The minstrel jokes changed color. As I look back, it seems to me that I can almost see, with the physical eye, the broad, restless upheaval beneath the surface of all society. The Mexican War was just over, and the veterans, young veterans all, filled with the spirit of adventure, turned eagerly toward this glittering new emprise. Out in the small villages, on the small farms, the news was talked over seriously, almost without excitement, as offering possible means of lifting the burden war had laid. Families strained their resources, mortgaged their possessions, to equip and send their single strongest members to make the common fortune. Then came the song that caught the popular ear, and the rush was on. Most great movements are done to song, generally commonplace. It was so in this instance. Oh, Susanna, or a rather modification of the original, made to fit the occasion, first sung in some minstrel show, ran like fire in the tinder of men's excited hopes. From every stage, on every street corner, in every restaurant and hotel it was sung, played, and whistled. At the sound of its first notes, the audience always sprang to its feet and cheered like mad. The desire to go to El Dorado was universal and almost irresistible. The ability to go was much more circumscribed. For one thing, it cost a good deal of money, and that was where I bogged down at the first pull. Then I suppose a majority did have ties of family, business, or other responsibilities impossible to shake off. However, we all joined one or more of the various clubs formed for the purpose of getting at least some of their members to California, and discussed heatedly the merits of the different routes, and went into minute and fascinating details as to processes of which we knew less than nothing, and sang "Oh, Susanna," and talked ourselves into a glorified fever of excitement, and went home with our heads in the clouds. Once in a great while some of these clubs came to something, as a body I mean, for the individual members were constantly working themselves up the summit of resolution to rush headlong and regardless down the other side and out of our sight. When a man had reached a certain pitch of excitement he ran amuck. He sold anything, deserted anything, broke through anything in the way of family responsibility or financial lacks in order to go. But as I say, occasionally one of these clubs pooled its individual resources and bought some old tub of a whaler or outfitted a wagon train and started off. But generally we got only as far as "Old Susanna." I remember once in coming out from one of our meetings, finding myself next to a solemn and earnest youth, originally from my own rural village. He walked by my side for several squares, lost in a brown study. Then suddenly he looked up. "Frank," he said with conviction, "I believe I'll go. I know most of this talk is wildly exaggerated, but I'm sensible enough to discount all that sort of thing, and to disbelieve absurd stories. I shan't go with the slightest notion of finding the thing true, but will be satisfied if I do reasonably well. In fact, if I don't pick up more than a hatful of gold a day, I shall be perfectly satisfied." Which remark sufficiently indicates about where we all were. End of chapter 1.